Hello! I am Mac, at least for a day, and everything's going to be okay. In this video, I will be reading comments from the How Can No Man's Sky multiplayer be improved video. I got some real good suggestions from people on how multiplayer can be improved. Max792 says, I think they should focus on lag and crashes that multiplayer causes before they consider adding more players per lobby. Like you said, more multiplayer missions which are required to have multiple players. Better base building optimization. He says maybe personal communities where players could join a community in-game and can play multiplayer with whoever is online from that community at that time. Could work well for bigger communities like the Galactic Hub. Yeah, I really like that idea. That was kind of like my idea about guilds. That's basically what I meant, is that there would be in-game guilds that you could join, and you could use the guild not only to communicate with voice chat, even when you're not in the same star system, but I like his idea that it could also be a way to build groups. Like they wouldn't have to be on your PlayStation friend list for you to jump into their game. Like, you could just go to the menu of your guild, or guilds if you have more than one, pick a person's name and jump into their game. So you wouldn't have to be friends with them, but you could find people in your guild that you could join games with. And reading this comment also gave me the idea, well, I think some people have talked about this, but right now, when you go to a star system and run into another player unexpectedly, all you see is each other as orbs. You have to jump into someone's game in order to see their player model. So if you just run into somebody unexpectedly, they're just an orb. I think they should fix that so that as long as both of you have PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live or whatever the requirements are, if you enter a star system where someone else is, you automatically jump into their game and can see their character model. I think that's what some people have said, they want to get rid of orbs, because it's kind of dumb that when we run into another player unexpectedly, they're just an orb, they're not a character model. So I do think that they should change that, get rid of orbs, at least in that respect. I do want them to keep orbs for when people do not have PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live. I think it's always going to be a requirement to be able to see each other's character models. I think we'll always have to have those services, those subscriptions, PlayStation Plus and all that. But it is good that we can see people as orbs, even if they or we don't have those console services. Let me take care of this predator. It's following me. So yeah, I do want them to get rid of orbs when you run into another player, but I don't want them to get rid of it so that we have it as a backup if somebody doesn't have the online subscription to do real multiplayer. So moving on, Christopher Tharp said, ships that take 2 players to fly. So that's an idea that people have talked about for quite a while. Some people thought that what we now call frigates were going to be mid-sized ships that multiple players could fly. I did not think that that's what they were. When I saw the concept art for frigates, I thought they were just going to be some new type of battleship, but not a multiplayer kind of thing. But sorry, I got distracted by my roommate. But yeah, that's an idea that people still have, that we could have ships that multiple people could fly. And somebody else made a good comment later on, so we'll come back to that subject when we read their comment. THTDI Inc. says, not concerned with multiplayer as it's pretty limited right now. I just want Hello Games to focus on planet variation and diversity. So Thunder prefers that they just do, variation and not worry about multiplayer, and that's fair. That's kind of where I am. I do want them to improve multiplayer, but not at the expense of doing other things, because honestly, I don't think multiplayer is ever going to enhance gameplay very much. Or rather, they need to enhance gameplay in order to enhance multiplayer. So I think multiplayer will get better as they improve the game in other ways, because there'll be more things that we can do together with other players. So they can indirectly improve... I'm heading the wrong way. They can indirectly improve multiplayer by enhancing the game in other ways, by making better gameplay. I am lost from my ship. I'm gonna have to dig a hole underground or something to get out of this storm. Okay, so just a second. Oh, there's my ship. Okay, so Dogstar says, remove the ability for the mining laser to do damage in multiplayer. It's especially irritating when you have turned damage off and a random player lasers you to death. So that sounds like it's a bug. I wasn't aware of that bug, but apparently you can still damage other players with the mining laser even if they have damage turned off. That's good to know. That's definitely not intended, because they went to the trouble of adding the ability to turn off all damage from other players. And if the mining laser can still do damage to you, then yeah, they need to fix that. So that's pretty much just a bug that they need to fix. Just a second. I don't know if I should have something to... There we go. Recharge my heat shield. Okay. So next is my friend Boomstick Joe. He says, multiplayer can be made better if the lonely explorer... Oops. Did I pass my ship? It's hard to play and read at the same time. Oh great, now I've lost track of my ship again. Oh, there it is. Okay. Boomstick Joe says, multiplayer can be made better if the Lonely Explorer aspect of the game is done away with. This would open up opportunities like solving multiplayer puzzles in order to explore ruins and derelict freighters. Delivery missions can be expanded so that if there is another player, increased difficulty of pirates forcing one player to provide defense. And of course, the storm stopped by the time I got to my ship. Yeah, that's some really good ideas that Joe gives. Solving puzzles with other players, that's a really cool idea. He said derelict freighters. Well, obviously, derelict freighters in space is another feature that we would like added, but we've got the ones on planet surfaces. Either way, if they added like increased difficulty to opening up treasure, and of course we'd want them to increase or improve the loot that you get from getting them if they're going to make it harder to open. But they could easily make it so that there is a door that's shut, and then there's like two buttons on opposite sides of the derelict freighter, and like both players would have to to go to one of the buttons and interact with the button at the same time in order to open the door. So that's just one idea of a multiplayer puzzle that would require other players in order to do it. And of course there'd be better loot to get out of those because of the increased difficulty, to make up for the increased difficulty. And also ruins and things like that could also have similar puzzles to gain access to the loot. I like his idea of delivery missions. I can't remember, but I don't think the Galactic Commission missions that you can get at your freighter use delivery missions. I could be wrong though. There's something like that where you accept the mission, then it sends you somewhere. I know there's like infiltrating manufacturing facilities and things like that with other players, but I don't think there's delivery missions. But either way, they could improve delivery missions in the Galactic Commission. The way Joe said, they could increase pirate attacks. Like, they could basically make it so that you have to go to another star system to deliver it, and as soon as you get there, there'd be a whole bunch of pirates that would spawn and attack you, and you might need help from the other player with you to beat all the pirates and finish the delivery mission. That would be a really good way to fix it. People have complained that you can escape from pirates by running away from them. They might fix that, make it so you can't do that anymore, to increase the difficulty so that there'd be a reason to do delivery missions with other players. That's just one idea to improve combat in multiplayer. Next is the unknown. They say base invasions, invade for loot, supplies, and your friend has to defend their base from you. 2 to 4 fleets in one game. Having fleets join would be cool. New enemy types, more of a threat to the universe for you and your friends to survive and take on. And also decals for your group logo. So a lot of different ideas there. Base invasions, I think you might be talking about 2 different types of base invasions. Some people have had the idea of, sentinels or something else attacking your base that you'd have to defend from. And then he also mentions an idea for like a PvP attack kind of thing where you can attack another player's base. I really don't think Hello Games would allow that. I can't imagine they would allow other players to damage each other's bases. So I don't see that happening, but they could implement some kind of specially designed destructible walls or something that are just for if you want to do like mock battles with other players or something. I don't know. Probably wouldn't do that, but who knows? They might. I like his idea of allowing other fleets to enter the system. In other words, currently in multiplayer, only one player can call their freighter. I'm not sure why that is. Might be so you can't like call your freighters in the same spot and have the freighters stuck together or something, but they could easily prevent that. But yeah, it would be really good if all 4 players could call their freighters and everybody could see each other's freighters at the same time. And also they could add gameplay that would have something to do with that, like joining our fleets. As he said, have fleets join would be cool. Not sure how that would work, but that sounds like a really cool idea. And definitely we want them to add more to space combat where we can use our freighters and frigates together in like a really big, large scale space battle. So yeah, if we could somehow like join our fleets together and then maybe all travel to a star system together to do like a really big space battle against enemies. That would be awesome. That would take a lot of work to design that, but if Hello Game wants to do that, I would love to see something like that happen. He said new enemy types, definitely. We got, well, of course, we got the biological horrors, which don't do a lot for multiplayer. I mean, you can fight them together, but and we also got the corrupt sentinels, which again, I've never seen one. I've never been able to make one appear, even when mining the satellites that are supposed to make them appear. But if they could add more corrupt sentinels into the game, make them a part of multiplayer missions, and make it a really challenging thing, that would be cool. Or any new enemies they want to add. Like, I think there's just corrupt sentinel drones right now, but they could add in corrupt sentinel walkers and corrupt sentinel quadrupeds, and have us like have some massive ground battle with them in multiplayer. That would be really cool. And also bigger, more dangerous creatures on planets that would take multiple players to take down, of course. I got an idea when I was reading this comment where I said that there should be greater difficulty near the center. I've suggested this many times, and other people have too. Hello Games said that before launch, they said that things would get more alien towards the center, which is not the case right now. But it would also be good if they would implement that and make difficulty increase towards the center. So basically, when you start the game, everything will be for solo player. Like the difficulty level would be for solo player. But if you want to journey towards the center of the galaxy, you would have to have friends, because eventually it would get really difficult closer to the center. And pirate attacks would be really massive, and space battles, and the strength of predators and the strength of sentinels would all get way higher close to the center. And then you would have to have other players in order to survive. So I think that would be a good way to implement it. Like, if you want to explore close to the center, then you have to start partying up with other players. So it wouldn't force you to do multiplayer at the beginning of the game, but later on, difficulty would increase, and you would need to do multiplayer in order to continue surviving and not getting killed all the time. So that's just an idea that I had. Krell from Serpo says, guilds with shared bases, freighters with teleporters, combined guild inventory containers, discoveries and guild teleporters, trade ships and inventory items, player trade network, share portal glyphs in-game, and private guild chat. So a lot of ideas there. He said guilds with shared bases, which is something I kind of talked about, that we should be able to give permissions to other players so that they can edit our base anytime we want. So it's basically a shared base, and we could create cities or guild fortresses or whatever like that. And I really like, well, some people have for a long time said that we should have teleporters on our freighters, but he went on to say guild teleporters. So that's a really good idea. Like, say you're in a guild and you could build a teleporter on your freighter, and that would allow anyone in your guild to use a teleporter at a space station and teleport to your freighter or to your base. So basically you could have a network, because right now we can build a whole bunch of bases and we can travel to those bases with the teleporter. And you can also travel to other players' bases. I'm not sure how that system works, but it would be awesome if, you know, we could have a guild or a community and we would always be able to teleport to the people's bases in our community. basically have a big network throughout the galaxy, travel to each other's bases whenever we want, and each other's freighters if we can build teleporters on freighters. And of course, he said combined inventory containers, which I think someone else said. That would be really good. And of course, trading ships. For a long time, people have wanted to be able to trade, sell ships to other players, and like I said, trading inventory items with each other. And player trade network, which would basically be the trade terminals, but for selling things to other players. And sharing portal glyphs. I think what he meant by that was, you know, giving people your address for your planet. Because right now we still have to use pen and paper to know what a portal address is. It would be really cool if we had like a portal address book in game. So another player, like say you can go to a portal, and by that I mean the monolithic portals that let you travel to a planet, and you can check that planet's address. But all you can do to record that is to like take a screenshot or write down the glyphs on paper. It would be really cool if in game we had an address book and we could choose to add a portal's address to our address book, and then like this guy said, the unknown said, when we see another player, we could give them an address from our address book, and it would go into their address book, so that we could share portal addresses that way, instead of having to have these separate online forums where people share portal addresses and stuff like that. We could just have an in-game method of storing planet portal addresses. And I think that's about it. And of course, we've talked about private guild chat before. Next is Vobert Becking. He says, multiplayer was an add-on with no real gameplay. 4 players is enough. There is no need for a trade system. I would like to see shared storage space and 2-seat ship and an exocraft with 1 driving and 1 operating weapons. So he disagrees with the trade system. He doesn't think that there should be more of a trade system between players, but he does want the shared storage space part. And this is the part I was saying we would go back to later. 2-seat ships and exocraft. And I really like his idea of 1 person operating weapons this way. So that's a really good idea. So that is what would be useful about it. I wasn't sure how it would be useful having a 2-seat ship, but yeah, if like 1 person can fly around and like the other person is in a turret, and they could turn and face behind the ship, because right now you have to turn your ship in order to fire behind you. That would be cool if another player could turn a turret and shoot enemies that are like pursuing you behind you. Same with exocraft. If you could have multiple players in your exocraft and the other player could control the weapons. That would work really well in the Colossus, the really big tank exocraft, because right now it's still not all that useful. They made it move faster, which is good, but it still doesn't have any stronger weapons than any of the other vehicles, and there's really nothing to make it better than the other vehicles. All the other vehicles are still faster than it. So all it really has is more inventory space. So if the Colossus could be 4-seater, and you could just have 2 passengers and then 1 driver and 1 person operating the turret. That would be cool. And I guess the 2 passengers could jump out and fight on foot if there's some kind of new ground combat. And then like the roamer, the little RC race car vehicle, that would just be 2-seater. And then I'd say the I don't know about the motorcycle. Maybe the motorcycle could be two-seater as well, but the Nomad, the little bitty hovercraft, would definitely still just be one player, and also the submarine would probably still be one player. But if they could increase the number of passengers for some of the exocraft, that would also differentiate the exocraft a bit more, make them more specialized, make some of them for multiplayer, and others would still be for solo. That would be cool. So yeah, really good ideas there. And the last person, Ivano Forgione, says, no need to get rid of orbs, just an update with shared buildings, player cities, hubs, and he goes on to say VR should be solo mode only, which I agree with. It's going to be hard enough for them to implement VR. I don't think VR could work with multiplayer. It would just be too taxing on the game, at least until the next gen consoles. And then player-made multiplayer missions with terminal built at base. So some cool ideas there. I agree that we should not completely get rid of orbs. They should get rid of it where they can, but still have orbs available for when people don't have PlayStation Plus. And of course he says shared buildings, which I agree with. Player cities, of course. And the VR should be solo mode only, at least while we're on the current gen consoles. And then multiplayer missions with a terminal built at base. I definitely agree with that. I don't like that the only multiplayer missions are on the freighter. So the only way you can get those is by calling a freighter. And again, freighters don't work very well in multiplayer because you can only call one person's freighter. And that may be kind of why they did it, because that's where you go to get multiplayer missions. But I definitely think it would be good if we could build a Galactic Commission terminal at our base, or add them into space stations as well. But yeah, as many ways as they can make multiplayer missions more available in different places, that would be really cool. In fact, that might be how we initiate Sentinel invasions. It doesn't really make much sense to initiate an attack on yourself, but they could, like, say they allow us to build multiplayer mission terminals at our base. You do a mission at that multiplayer terminal. Then when you and your friend turn in the mission at your base, then let's say that triggers the Sentinels to attack you because you did something when you did the mission that made the Sentinels mad. So then they attack your base, and then you and your friends have to defend your base because the Sentinels have found your hideout and are coming for you, or something like that. That's a pretty cool idea. So that's just a way that they could implement the Sentinel attacks, because that's something I've struggled with, because I wouldn't want it to be like Fallout 4. In Fallout 4, you could have lots of settlements, and then after you get a lot of settlements, then you're constantly having to deal with those settlements being attacked. I wouldn't want, like, all of my bases that I have to start being attacked by Sentinels. What would be cool is if there was a terminal that you interact with, and something that you do there would eventually trigger Sentinel attacks. So it would just be when you're there using that terminal that you would have to defend from the Sentinels. So that, I think, is a great idea. Well, I'm kind of combining Ivano's idea with my own ideas. But yeah, a multiplayer mission terminal that would also, trigger other events like Sentinel attacks. So lots and lots of good ideas. I really want Hello Games to see some of these ideas, and I kind of doubt that they watch my videos. So those of you who have made these suggestions, if you haven't already, please make sure you go to the No Man's Sky website and go to their help center, and there's a place on their Zen desk that you can suggest things, make suggestions. So everybody, if you have ideas to improve multiplayer, or any ideas, of course, for No Man's Sky, make sure that you are suggesting them to Hello Games in addition to, suggesting them on my videos, because I don't think Hello Games is going to see them. So make sure you are communicating with Hello Games as well. So hopefully they will make improvements to multiplayer. So thank you to everybody who made these really good suggestions on how multiplayer can be improved in No Man's Sky. And I will be back this weekend with a new topic for us to discuss as we continue to speculate on the future of No Man's Sky. So, I have been Mac. Thank you for joining me for a day. And remember, everything is going to be okay.